Welcome everybody. This is TCOM 101 Online. I'm Dr. Mike Gerhard, Ball State University. You are watching video number 20. This will be our last online video for TCOM 101 this semester. And yes, it's been a historic and bizarre semester, one that we will never forget. All right, in our final lecture, I want to talk about something called corporate social responsibility theory. Social responsibility theory. Now, maybe one of the best ways to understand this is to bring it down to the individual level, the personal level. What are your obligations and responsibilities as a citizen in America, other than just obeying the law? What duties and responsibilities do you have? Now, of course, this will vary from individual to individual. We have different notions of what our personal obligations are to society. How about voting, political participation? No, you don't have to vote, but I think you're a good citizen if you do vote and participate. How about environmental stewardship? Shouldn't you be a good citizen in terms of protecting the environment? How about volunteerism, community service, giving back? To whom much is given, much is expected. We're expected to help others. How about military service? In some families, this is very important as an obligation. Jury duty, an important obligation, which a lot of people try and get out of. The duty of self-improvement, the duty to take care of ourselves, to care about our health, to improve ourselves intellectually and morally and spiritually, the duty of self-improvement. What about the ethic of kindness? Just being kind and helpful, not being a mean person. Organ donation. A lot of us have signed up to be organ donors. And there might be other obligations, personal obligations that aren't required, but things that citizens decide to do because they think it's the right thing to do. Let's take this to the level of a company, a giant corporation. What are some of its social responsibilities? How do the big TCOM conglomerates, the giant media and tech companies, how do they actually define social responsibility in the 21st century? Okay, almost all of the companies promote this idea of social responsibility, of being a good corporate citizen. Almost all of the big media and tech companies celebrate social responsibility on their websites. What is corporate social responsibility theory? Well, it's just the idea that companies have a duty to have a positive impact on the environment, on the consumers, their employees, the communities in which they operate, and all other stakeholders. It's the idea that companies have a huge obligation to a bunch of different constituents. Now, the media and tech companies, how do they define social responsibility? How do they put it into action? Well, I've examined a number of the corporate websites, big tech, giant media companies, and it seems to me there's about 11 dimensions of corporate social responsibility in the media world. All right. First, journalistic integrity. All of the big media companies that have a news division that do journalism claim to operate with integrity, that they're telling the important stories, that they're being accurate, fair, and balanced. So, journalistic integrity. Another dimension of social responsibility is the idea of ratings and filtering devices, putting a rating on the content, whether it's TV, film, video games, to make sure that that content reaches the intended audience. Support of ratings is content ratings is an example of social responsibility. Here's another one. Awareness of social concerns, things like tobacco, drug, alcohol use, child obesity, recognizing these concerns and then trying to take steps to promote pro-social behaviors. Community outreach, This is about volunteerism, philanthropy, giving back. Again, the notion that to whom much is given, much is expected. So almost all the companies give back to the communities and to the world. Environmental initiatives. A good company today thinks green. They care about sustainability, about protecting the environment. So this would be things like energy efficiency, reducing the carbon footprint, recycling, okay? Any steps that we could take to ensure the sustainability of the mothership. Another important aspect of social responsibility is diversity and diversity initiatives. And this means we have a multicultural, diverse society. Not only the workplace, but also the content should reflect the diversity of society. Another important dimension of social responsibility in the 21st century is consumer privacy protection, and especially data privacy, making sure that the data is secured and stored properly, okay, and not shared with unauthorized third parties. Okay? Consumer data privacy protection. Another dimension of social responsibility focuses on children and the protection of children. You can never go wrong saying you care about children and protecting children. So this would be issues like online safety and content ratings, but all of the companies say they have an obligation to protect children. Okay, supply chain ethics. The supply chain. Now this notion is that if a company has vendors in a long supply chain, that maybe they're responsible for all of the companies within that supply chain, that all of the companies in the chain act ethically. An important part of this is fair labor standards. For example, no sweatshops, no child labor, no exploitation of workers. And then a final dimension of social responsibility is workplace safety. And this really emerged in the last couple of years with the Me Too movement and the revelations about the extent of sexual harassment in the workplace. So a good socially responsible company recognizes that this is a problem and takes steps to reduce or eliminate workplace harassment. So those are some basic dimensions of social responsibility. And the current crisis in America, the COVID-19 crisis, raises a lot of questions about how companies are responding and if they're behaving in ways that are socially responsible. Are they just concerned about profits, or are they concerned about their larger obligations to society? I hope that the companies are being fair to the workers and the consumers right now during the pandemic. Now let's talk about another issue. Last year, maybe there was a beginning of a change in philosophy about how companies should operate. And so now I want to talk about the shareholders versus the stakeholders and ask if we're going to see a big turnaround right now. You know, traditionally, companies, their primary concern has been the shareholders, the investors. Okay? But last year, a group called the Business Roundtable released a statement that said, we share a fundamental commitment to all of the stakeholders, not just the shareholders, all of the stakeholders. That means the employees, the customers, the suppliers in the supply chain, and the communities in which the businesses operate. So trying to extend the obligations of companies beyond profit to say that everybody influenced and affected by the company should be considered. So the Business Roundtable kind of updated its definition of the purpose of a corporation. Shareholders are now no longer supposed to be just number one and the only consideration. Now companies are expected to have a commitment to all of the stakeholders. This would be a big shift from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. And if this happens, this would definitely be a greater acknowledgement of business and its obligations to society. Now, will every business, embrace this change? I don't think so. Remember, this is capitalism. And in capitalism, it seems that profit almost always comes first. But it would be a very good change, I think, if businesses started to care more about all of their various constituent groups and not just the investors. Anyway, a corporate responsibility, social responsibility. Let's focus in just finally on Disney. Now, Disney has really embraced the idea of social responsibility over the years. And I want to share one quote from Disney and its corporate website as it relates to this concept of social responsibility. And I personally tend to agree with this philosophy. But anyway, here it is. At Disney, we believe that being a good corporate citizen is not just the right thing to do, it also benefits our guests, our employees, and our businesses. It makes the company a desirable place to work, reinforces the attractiveness of our brands and products, and strengthens our bonds with consumers and neighbors in communities around the world. So Disney values this idea of social responsibility and says it's not just the right thing to do, but ultimately it's good for business and everybody connected with the business. Anyway, that's a little look at the notion of corporate social responsibility. Well, that's all we have time for in this video. I hope you got a little bit better understanding of the concept of corporate social responsibility. Please try and reflect a little bit on what your personal obligations are to the world, as well as the obligations of all of these companies and industries. Okay, continue to stay in, stay safe until the pandemic is over, and take care. So long for now.